It was a stormy night, and the wind howled through the trees as Emma, a young woman in her late 20s, found herself alone in her family's old countryside home. She had decided to spend the weekend there, seeking solace from the city's relentless pace. Their house, an imposing structure with creaking floors and whispering walls, stood isolated, surrounded by dense woods. As the rain intensified, tapping rhythmically against the windows, Emma felt a growing unease. She tried to distract herself by reading, but the flickering lights and the storm's cacophony made it impossible to concentrate. Deciding to check the locks, she moved from room to room, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. When she reached the living room, Emma noticed that the window was slightly ajar, letting in the cold, damp air. She was sure she had closed all the windows earlier. A chill ran down her spine as she hurried to secure it. Just as she snapped the lock in place, a distant thud came from the upper floor, like something heavy falling. Her heart raced. She told herself it was just the storm, yet the nagging feeling of another presence in the house grew stronger. Emma grabbed a flashlight, her only source of light now as the power flickered out, plunging the house into darkness. Ascending the staircase, each step creaked under her weight, amplifying her fear. The beam from her flashlight cut through the blackness, revealing nothing but the familiar yet now menacing antiques and family portraits lining the walls. Reaching the top, she hesitated, listening. Their house groaned and whispered around her. Then, from the end of the hallway, she heard a soft, dragging sound, like someone or something pulling itself along the floor. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She moved toward the sound, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The noise led her to her late grandmother's room, the door of which stood eerily ajar. Emma pushed it open slowly, the room revealing itself inch by harrowing inch. Inside, the air felt unnaturally cold, and the smell of old, forgotten things filled her nostrils. The sound had stopped. She stepped in, her eyes scanning the shadows. The flashlight flickered, then died, leaving Emma in the suffocating embrace of the dark room. Outside, the storm raged on, oblivious to the drama unfolding within. Emma, now blind in the darkness, felt the unmistakable sense of being watched. The silence was thick, broken only by her labored breathing and the distant rumble of thunder. Just as she fumbled for the flashlight switch, a cold whisper brushed her ear, speaking a name she hadn't heard in years, a name from her childhood nightmares. Continue from the previous story and make it longer like the plot of a horror script in a film, and don't make an ending or conclusion, so that this story can be continued in the next process. Emma, her fingers trembling, turned the brittle pages of the journal, each one revealing more of her ancestors' arcane knowledge and desperate pleas from beyond the grave. The entry spoke of a ritual, a potential way to sever the curse's hold on her bloodline. However, it required elements that seemed more myth than reality: a candle made from the fat of a hanged man, a silver dagger bathed in the light of a blood moon, and a lock of hair from the cursed witch herself. As Emma absorbed the chilling details, the house above her groaned, the sounds eerily syncopated with her racing heartbeat. She felt an urgency building, a sense that the spectral presence was growing stronger, its impatience tangible. The whispers returned, now clear, insistent, and menacing, echoing down into the cellar, promising despair and torment. Determined to confront her fate, Emma stored the journal in her pocket and looked for a way out of the cellar. She discovered a rusted, narrow staircase leading upwards, hidden behind a false wall. The staircase spiraled tightly, its metal steps groaning under her weight, leading her to a sealed trapdoor. With effort, she pushed it open, emerging into a long-forgotten part of the house. Dust-laden sheets covered furniture, and portraits of her ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. A portrait of the witch, her direct ancestor, hung prominently, her eyes sorrowful yet defiant. Emma felt a strange connection to the image, as if through the portrait, her ancestor was reaching out to her, entreating her to end the centuries-old cycle of vengeance. She studied the painting, noticing a key hanging around the portrayed woman's neck, identical to a small, ornate key she had found among her grandmother's belongings. Compelled by intuition, Emma returned to the main part of the house, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The storm outside intensified, its thunderous roars mirroring the chaotic emotion swirling within her. She made her way to her grandmother's room, where the old woman had spent her final days, and where Emma had found the key. Inside, she approached the large, antique wardrobe that dominated the room, its wood carved with strange symbols that now seemed to pulsate in the dim light. Inserting the key into the lock, the wardrobe doors creaked open, revealing a hidden compartment containing the very items described in the journal. As Emma examined the objects, the house shook violently, as though protesting her discovery. The candle, dagger, and a small, sealed pouch, presumably containing the witch's hair, lay before her, casting long, ominous shadows on the wall. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house, followed by an oppressive silence. The air grew colder, the shadows deepened, and the faint sound of a child's laughter floated down the hallway, chilling Emma to the bone. Her breath visible in the air, she clutched the items tightly, knowing that the final confrontation was imminent. Outside, the rain ceased, and an unnatural calm settled over the house. The full moon broke through the clouds, its silver light streaming through the windows, casting an ethereal glow. Emma, with the ancient items in hand, prepared to perform the ritual that would confront the curse head-on. But as she began, she realized that the ritual was not just a means to banish the spectre, but also a doorway to understanding the true nature of her family's legacy and her place within it. The shadows in the house seemed to pulsate, waiting, watching, as if the building itself was alive, breathing, and aware of the pivotal moment unfolding within its walls. The line between the physical and the ethereal blurred as Emma chanted the incantations from the journal, each word resonating with power and ancient fury. The house responded in kind, its walls groaning, the floors shaking, and the very air charged with anticipation of either salvation or damnation. Emma's voice grew stronger, more confident, as she embraced her role in this generational saga, ready to face whatever consequences her actions might unleash. The ritual was more than a battle with a haunting spectre, it was a fight for her soul and the redemption of her bloodline. As she reached the climax of the ceremony, the spectral figure appeared once more, not as an enemy, but as a participant in a dance as old as the curse itself. Emma stood at the threshold of a revelation, one that would unravel the mysteries of her lineage and reveal the true horror of her family's past. The spectral figure, now clear in the moonlit room, approached Emma with a presence that was both menacing and sorrowful. Its form wavered between that of the vengeful witch and a more peaceful, resigned aspect, reflecting the duality of their shared lineage. Emma, standing firm, continued the ritual, her voice steady but her body trembling with the enormity of the moment. As she chanted, the room spun with spectral energy, the walls blurring into a vortex of past and present. The figure reached out, touching Emma's forehead with a cold, ethereal hand, flooding her mind with visions. She saw the witch's life, not as the evil entity of legend, but as a woman wronged, powerful yet vulnerable, caught in the merciless gears of history. Through these visions, Emma learned the truth about the curse. It was not a straightforward spell of vengeance, but a complex bond, woven with love, betrayal, and tragedy. The witch had sought to protect her lineage, even in her rage and despair. The curse was a twisted form of this protection, morphing through generations into something dark and vengeful. As the connection deepened, Emma felt a surge of power, the ritual reaching its zenith. The house trembled, groaning with the weight of centuries, as if it too yearned for release from the endless cycle of pain and retribution. Objects levitated, swirling around the room, caught in the growing storm of magical energy. Emma, now a conduit for the ancestral power, channeled the swirling energies, weaving them into a new spell, one that sought to heal rather than harm, to forgive rather than punish. The air crackled with potential, the boundaries between eras and realms thinning, allowing spirits of the past and present to converge in the eye of the storm. The witch's spirit, her face contorted between rage and peace, seemed to struggle against the torrent of change. Then, slowly, her features softened, tears of spectral light streaming down her cheeks. She whispered words of regret and love, a lament for what had been and a hopeful cry for what might yet be. Emma, empowered and empathetic, echoed the sentiments, her own tears mingling with the ghostly ones, as she strove to mend the broken threads of their family tapestry. The room glowed with a pure, cleansing light, the shadows retreating, the oppressive aura lifting. Just as the ritual seemed to reach a resolution, a deep, malevolent growl echoed through the house, a reminder that the curse was not just a personal vendetta but tied to darker, deeper forces that had been stirred by the night's events. The house shuddered, a crack appearing in the floor, spreading rapidly like a gaping maw, threatening to swallow everything. Emma and the spirit of the witch stood on the brink, the past and present colliding, the future hanging in the balance. The energy in the room spiraled out of control, the outcome uncertain, as forces both ancient and modern clashed in a tumultuous crescendo, setting the stage for a confrontation that would decide the fate of Emma's soul and the legacy of her bloodline. The storm outside returned with renewed fury, mirroring the chaos within. Lightning flashed, illuminating the scene with stark clarity. Emma, her ancestor's spirit, and the dark forces unleashed by centuries of bitterness and misunderstanding, all converging in a moment that transcended time, a pivotal point that could either heal or destroy generations of haunted existence. In the tempest of energies, the house seemed to warp and twist, its structure moaning under the strain of the supernatural forces at play. Emma, standing at the epicenter, felt the weight of her ancestors' sins and sorrows, their hopes and fears, pressing down upon her. The witch's spirit, now a complex tapestry of anger and remorse, love and loss, fought alongside her against the dark tendrils of malevolence that sought to maintain the curse. The ground beneath them cracked wider, revealing a dark abyss from which poured a cacophony of voices, the lost souls ensnared by the curse over centuries. These spirits, twisted by time and torment, reached out, their wails a haunting chorus that threatened to overwhelm Emma's resolve. Amidst this chaos, a more formidable presence began to take shape, a manifestation of the curse's core, born of the darkest deeds and desires of her lineage. It was a shadowy entity, formless yet imposing, its essence a vortex of hatred and despair, feeding on the cycle of retribution that had perpetuated the family's damnation. Emma, grasping the silver dagger, felt its power pulsate in sync with the storm, both elemental and spiritual. The candle, its flame now a beacon of unnatural light, cast shadows that danced and twisted around the room, as if mocking the futility of her efforts. As the entity approached, a cold, suffocating dread enveloped Emma, but the spirit of the witch whispered encouragement, urging her to stand firm. The two, once adversaries across time, now stood united against a common foe, their combined strength a testament to the possibility of redemption and change. Drawing on the ritual's energy, Emma chanted the final incantations, her voice a clear, defiant bell amid the din of spectral despair. The silver dagger gleamed, absorbing the moon's light and reflecting it back, magnified and purified, a symbol of clarity and truth against the murky lies of the past. The entity recoiled as the light struck it, its form writhing and twisting, a visual echo of the pain and conflict it embodied. The spirits around them, caught in the pull of the ritual, began to calm, their cries lessening as the light bathed them, soothing the eternal anguish. Emma felt the dagger's power surge, guiding her hand towards the heart of the curse's manifestation. With a cry that mingled fear, anger, and hope, she thrust the blade forward, piercing the shadowy form. A blinding light exploded from the point of contact, radiating outward in a shockwave of purifying energy. The house trembled, the very foundation groaning as if in agony or perhaps relief, as the light spread, illuminating every dark corner, filling every hidden crevice. The abyss began to close, the fractured ground merging back together, sealing away the darkest depths of the family's legacy. As the light reached its zenith, The shadow entity let out a final, ear-splitting screech, its form disintegrating, dissolving into nothingness, its hold on the physical world severed. The cacophony of lost souls faded, their presence dissipating, released from the bindings of hatred and sorrow. Emma collapsed, exhausted yet exultant, as the witch's spirit, now serene and luminous, smiled at her, a silent thank you before fading into the light, her legacy finally at peace. The storm outside abated, the moon casting a gentle, cleansing glow through the windows. Their house settled, the air clear and still, as if it too had been released from a long-held breath. Emma, surrounded by the remnants of her ancestral struggle, felt a profound connection to the house, her family, and the land itself. She knew, however, that the night's events were but a chapter in a longer saga. The curse might have been lifted, but the history of her family, with its light and darkness, its love and betrayal, remained woven into the fabric of her being. As she pondered her next steps, the first rays of dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft light on the ancient journal, still open, its pages fluttering slightly as if beckoning to reveal more secrets, more truths to be uncovered. With the immediate threat gone, Emma realized that her journey was far from over. The legacy of her family was a complex tapestry, and she was now its keeper, responsible for mending the tears and strengthening the weave for future generations. As she stood up, determined and resolute, the house around her seemed to echo her determination, ready to reveal its hidden depths and guide her on the path to fully understanding the true nature of her inheritance and the mysteries yet to unravel. With the first light of dawn casting a new perspective on the old house, Emma began to explore the once familiar rooms, now seen through the lens of her harrowing experience. She felt a sense of purpose, knowing that the end of the curse was not the end of her story, but a beginning. The house, freed from the spectral chains of the past, seemed to breathe easier, its secrets less menacing, more inviting. As she walked through the corridors, her attention was drawn to a portrait that had always hung askew, one she had never really noticed before. Now, with a new understanding, she straightened it, revealing a hidden safe behind. Inside, Emma found letters and diaries, further pieces of her family's puzzle that spoke of alliances and conflicts, of love affairs and betrayals, stretching back centuries. One diary, in particular, caught her eye, its pages yellowed with age, the handwriting elegant yet frantic. It belonged to a relative from a generation just before the witch's trial, hinting at a prelude to the curse, a story of forbidden knowledge and a pact with shadowy entities that promised power and protection. Intrigued and disturbed, Emma delved deeper into the texts, uncovering a narrative that suggested the curse was merely a symptom of a deeper, more ancient evil that her ancestors had meddled with, an evil that perhaps had not been fully vanquished by the night's ritual. Outside, the world slowly woke, but inside the house, time seemed malleable, stretching and contracting with each revealed secret. Emma realized that the battle with the witch's spirit was but the surface of a deep well of darkness, one that her family had been drawing from, willingly or not, for generations. The diary spoke of a place, hidden within the estate's grounds, where the pact had been made, a grove that locals avoided, claiming it was cursed. Emma felt a pull towards this place, an urge to confront the legacy head-on, to understand the full extent of her family's dealings and to ensure that no remnants of the darkness remained to threaten future generations. Armed with the diaries and a growing sense of resolve, Emma ventured outside. The morning was clear, but the air held a chill that seemed out of place in the light of the sun. She made her way to the grove, which was marked by ancient stones, their surfaces etched with symbols that matched those in the diaries. As she stepped into the grove, the air grew colder, and the light dimmed, as if the place itself lay in a perpetual twilight. The trees, gnarled and ancient, formed a dense canopy, their branches intertwining like clasped fingers, creating an almost palpable barrier between the grove and the outside world. In the center of the grove stood an altar, stone and covered in moss, the air around it thick with the scent of decay. Emma approached, her mind racing with the possibilities of what this place might have witnessed, what secrets it held. Placing the diaries on the altar, she began to read aloud, her voice steady but filled with emotion. The words seemed to resonate with the grove, a vibration that stirred the still air and rustled the leaves. Shadows shifted, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw figures, spectral and indistinct, gathering around the edges of the clearing, watching, listening. The narrative in the diary culminated in a ceremony much like the one Emma had performed in the house, but with a crucial difference. It spoke of a binding, not a banishing, a seal that tethered the dark forces to her family, offering them power in exchange for their allegiance and, ultimately, their souls. Emma felt a surge of anger and sorrow for her ancestors' choices, their willingness to sacrifice future generations for immediate gain. But alongside these emotions, she felt a spark of hope, the realization that their story did not have to define her own. She could change the narrative, break the cycle for good. As she read the last of the diary's entries, the ground beneath the grove began to tremble, and the air shimmered, as if the fabric of reality was thinning. Emma understood that she was on the cusp of something monumental, a moment that could either cleanse her family's name and free them from the shadows or condemn them to eternal darkness. The figures in the shadows stepped closer, their features becoming more distinct, revealing themselves as her ancestors, their expressions a mix of regret, hope, and desperation. They were bound to this place, to the pact they had made, and only Emma, with her newfound knowledge and resolve, could release them. With the grove awakening around her, the past and present blurring into one, Emma prepared to face the legacy of her family's ambitions, to confront the darkness and, with luck and strength, to bring light back to the haunted woods and the souls that lingered there, including her own. The line between her lineage and the mystical forces at play thinned as Emma stood in the grove, the ancestral spirits circling, their faces etched with centuries of torment and longing for release. She realized that her family's history was not just marked by darkness, but was intertwined with the very essence of the grove, the land itself bearing the scars of ancient pacts and sacrifices. Drawing a deep breath, Emma began to recite the incantations from the diary, her voice echoing in the unnatural stillness of the grove. With each word spoken, the symbols on the ancient stones glowed, casting eerie lights that danced like ghostly flames, illuminating the grove with a spectral luminescence. The spirits of her ancestors moved closer, their forms becoming more solid, as if the incantations were anchoring them to the physical world. Their eyes, filled with pain and hope, fixed on Emma, imploring her to undo the wrongs of the past. As she continued the ritual, the air around the altar thickened, swirling with visible energies that coalesced into a vortex above it. The ground shook, and the trees bent as if in agony, their leaves whispering secrets long kept in silence. Emma felt the power of the grove coursing through her, a raw, untamed force that threatened to overwhelm her senses. She clung to the words of the ritual, her voice growing stronger, imbued with the collective will of her ancestors to break free from the shackles of their dark legacy. Suddenly, from the center of the vortex, a figure began to emerge, its form dark and fluid, a manifestation of the pact's original entity, the source of the family's curse. It towered over Emma, its presence a maelstrom of hatred and malice, a stark contrast to the pleading spirits of her ancestors. The entity spoke, its voice a cacophony of whispers and screams, offering Emma power and immortality in exchange for her allegiance, tempting her with the promise of ruling over the physical and spectral realms. But Emma, fortified by the knowledge of her family's suffering and the destruction wrought by the pact, stood resolute. The spirits of her ancestors rallied around her, lending her their strength and courage. Emma, feeling the unity of her bloodline, pushed back against the entity's offers, declaring her intent to end the pact and free her family from its corrupting influence. The battle of wills intensified, the grove becoming a battlefield of light and darkness, the air crackling with the energy of centuries-old conflict. Emma, channeling the collective power of her lineage, thrust the silver dagger into the ground at the base of the altar, the symbolic heart of the grove. A shockwave of light erupted, radiating outward, clashing with the darkness of the entity. The ancient stones cracked, releasing streams of light, as if unburdening themselves of the dark energies accumulated over generations. The entity roared in defiance, its form becoming unstable, fraying at the edges as the light pierced through it. Emma, amidst the chaos, felt a deep connection to the land, to her ancestors, and to the myriad lives entwined with her family's fate. As the light and darkness battled, the spirits of her ancestors began to ascend, their faces transforming from sorrow to peace, their release near at hand. The entity, weakened and writhing, attempted to pull Emma into the abyss with it, to drag her into darkness as a final act of vengeance. Emma, summoning every ounce of her being, resisted, her resolve a beacon amidst the encroaching shadows. The grove, alive with the energy of release and redemption, pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat, echoing the enduring spirit of those bound to its history. The struggle reached a crescendo, the fate of Emma's soul, the entity, and the ancestral spirits hanging in the balance, each moment stretching into eternity, a testament to the enduring clash between light and shadow, redemption and damnation, in the haunted heart of the family's legacy. In the throes of the cosmic struggle, the grove became a nexus of ancient and modern energies, the air thick with the power of uncounted years. The entity, now a writhing mass of shadow, lashed out, its tendrils of darkness snaking towards Emma, each touch searing her skin like ice. Emma, grounded by the strength of her ancestors, chanted the final verses of the incantation, her voice a resonant force against the cacophony of the grove's turmoil. The silver dagger, planted firmly in the earth, acted as a conduit, channeling the accumulated light and resolve into the heart of the darkness. The grove responded, its ancient trees bending towards Emma, their leaves whispering incantations of their own, a chorus of nature aligning with her course. The stones around the altar glowed brighter, cracks spreading like veins of light, fragmenting the darkness with each pulse. As the battle intensified, the spirits of Emma's ancestors formed a protective circle around her, their ethereal hands linked, creating a barrier of spectral energy. The entity, enraged by the defiance, surged against the barrier, its form flickering between the corporeal and the ethereal, a storm of malice and despair. Within this maelstrom of power, Emma found a calm center, her resolve becoming an unbreakable core. She felt the energy of the land, the legacy of her bloodline, and the hopes of the freed spirits converging within her, forging a weapon of pure intention. The entity, sensing its impending doom, unleashed a final, desperate assault, a wave of darkness that threatened to engulf everything. The grove trembled, the very fabric of reality straining under the onslaught. But Emma, with the clarity of her purpose and the unity of generations behind her, stood firm. She pushed forward, her voice rising above the chaos, a clear, defiant call that resonated with the power of truth and reconciliation. The dagger glowed, a beacon of concentrated light, piercing the heart of the darkness. A blinding explosion of light and shadow erupted, sending shockwaves through the grove and beyond, tearing at the veils between worlds, exposing the raw fabric of existence. The entity, caught in the blast, howled in fury and pain as it was torn apart, its essence dissolving into the light, its hold on the world severed. In the aftermath, a profound silence settled over the grove. The light receded, leaving the natural glow of dawn to illuminate the clearing. The ancient trees stood tall, their leaves whispering softly, as if in relief. The stones around the altar, now cracked and weathered, seemed at peace, their centuries-long vigil ended. Emma, exhausted yet exhilarated, felt the land breathe, a slow, contented sigh that echoed her own sense of release. The spirits of her ancestors, now mere wisps of light, nodded to her in gratitude before fading into the ether, their legacy redeemed, their souls finally at rest. The grove, once a place of dark pacts and binding curses, was cleansed, its air fresh and filled with the sounds of the waking world. Emma stood in the center, the silver dagger in her hand, now just a simple blade, its power spent. She realized that the battle was not just hers but belonged to the land, the spirits, and the very essence of her lineage. She had confronted the darkness not only of her family's past but of human nature itself, challenging the cycle of greed, revenge, and sorrow. As Emma left the grove, the sun fully rose, casting long shadows that seemed to retreat before her, a symbolic gesture of the new dawn she had ushered in. The house in the distance stood silent, its appearance unchanged but its aura transformed, no longer a prison of the past but a home, a sanctuary of peace and potential. Yet, the world beyond the grove and the house, rich with history and secrets, loomed large. Emma sensed that her journey into the heart of her family's darkness was but a prelude to a broader exploration of the mysteries and wonders, the terrors and joys that lay hidden in the wider world, waiting to be discovered and understood. Her footsteps on the path back to the house were light, yet determined, each step marking both an end and a beginning. The legacy of her ancestors, once a burden, was now a source of strength and wisdom, a guide for the journey ahead, into the depths of the unknown, where the line between light and shadow, past and present, was a thread waiting to be unwoven in the continuing saga of her extraordinary existence. As Emma walked back to the house, her mind teemed with the night's revelations and the weight of her newfound responsibility. The world around her seemed to pulse with an unseen life, each leaf and shadow imbued with a deeper meaning, a hidden story. Reaching the house, she noticed how it seemed to stand taller, its once foreboding presence now a protective sentinel, guarding the secrets and histories within. Entering, she felt the lingering traces of her ancestors, not as oppressive specters, but as silent, supportive presences, echoes of their triumphs and tragedies woven into the very fabric of the home. Determined to document her experiences and the truths uncovered, Emma set up in her grandmother's study, a room filled with books, artifacts, and old photographs. The study, once a place of quiet contemplation, now served as her command center, the hub from which she would delve deeper into the mysteries of her family and the broader tapestry of the supernatural world she had been thrust into. She began to sort through the materials, categorizing them into what she knew, what she suspected, and what remained enigmatic. Her grandmother's notes, once cryptic and nonsensical, now shimmered with potential insights and clues to further secrets. Maps, old letters, and journals hinted at connections to other families, other stories that paralleled and intertwined with her own. The more she read, the more Emma realized that her family's legacy was a single thread in a vast, intricate web of historical and supernatural narratives. There were references to distant lands, ancient ruins, and artifacts of immense power, each entry a beacon, drawing her towards a larger world of mystery and wonder, of darkness and light. As the day turned to evening, Emma's focus shifted to the grove and the entity that had been vanquished. She pondered the nature of the pact and the entity's true intentions. Was it merely a malevolent force, or a guardian of some deeper, more arcane truth? The grove, now cleansed, might still hold answers, its ancient stones and whispered legends a cipher to be decoded. She planned to explore the grove further, to study its flora, its layout, and the remnants of the rituals performed there, believing that the land itself would reveal more of its story in time. But she also knew that her research must extend beyond her own backyard, so to speak, into the wider world where other forces, benevolent or malevolent, might be at play. That night, as Emma lay in bed, her mind racing with plans and theories, a dream came to her, vivid and commanding. She saw the house and the grove from above, as if floating in the air, and then the view expanded, revealing a network of lines, glowing with energy, connecting her home to distant places across the globe. These lines pulsed with power, and where they intersected, there shone nodes of brilliant light, places of significant power or turmoil. In her dream, Emma felt drawn to these points, understanding instinctively that they represented places where her journey would lead, where the mysteries of the past and the keys to the future lay waiting. Awakening with a start, Emma felt a surge of excitement and apprehension. Her journey was far from over, it was evolving, expanding into new realms, new mysteries. She realized that her confrontation in the grove was not just an end to her family's curse but the beginning of a larger quest, one that would take her beyond the confines of her ancestral home, into the heart of the supernatural world. With the first light of dawn filtering through the curtains, Emma rose, her resolve firm. She would start locally, investigating the grove and the surrounding lands, but her mind and her mission would expand outward, following the lines of power and destiny revealed in her dream. Her family's legacy, once a source of fear and darkness, had become her gateway to a larger world, a world where the past and the present, the natural and the supernatural, intertwined. Emma stood on the threshold of this world, poised between the known and the unknown, ready to explore the shadows and light of a reality far broader and more fantastical than she had ever imagined. Emma's days became consumed with research and exploration, each discovery leading to more questions, each answer hinting at larger mysteries. The grove, now a place of quiet and contemplation, seemed to whisper secrets on the wind, guiding her to hidden compartments and buried artifacts around the estate, remnants of her ancestors' dabblings in the supernatural. She mapped the ley lines she had seen in her dream, tracing their energy through the landscape, finding ancient stones and forgotten wells that pulsed with unseen power. These places, marked on old family maps, aligned with the network of lines, confirming her suspicions of a grander, interconnected web of supernatural sites. Within the house, Emma uncovered a hidden library, sealed behind a wall in the basement, its shelves laden with tomes of arcane knowledge, alchemical recipes, and historical records of other families intertwined with her own. This trove of information provided new insights into the supernatural world and her family's place within it. Night after night, she delved into the books, learning about the entities and powers that her ancestors had communed with. Among these were tales of guardians of the natural world, entities that balanced the dark forces her family had once sought to control. These guardians, bound to the land, offered protection and wisdom to those who respected their domains. As autumn turned to winter, Emma's understanding of her family's legacy deepened. She realized that their history was a microcosm of a larger cosmic struggle between forces of creation and destruction, with her ancestors playing roles that affected not just their own fate but the balance of the supernatural world. One evening, while studying an ancient map, Emma discovered a series of cryptic symbols that matched those found in the grove. Following these clues led her to a secluded part of the estate, where the ground was marked with the same symbols, hidden beneath layers of fallen leaves and dirt. Excavating the site, she unearthed a stone altar similar to the one in the grove but older and more weathered. Inscriptions on the altar told of a covenant older than the house itself, a pact between the land's original guardians and the first of her ancestors to settle there. This revelation shed new light on her family's history, suggesting that the initial relationship with the supernatural forces was one of respect and cooperation, which had been twisted over generations into the dark pact she had broken. Determined to restore this ancient covenant and bring balance to the land, Emma sought to learn more about these guardians. The books in the hidden library spoke of rituals and offerings, ways to commune with these entities and gain their favor. As she prepared for a ritual to contact the guardians, strange occurrences began to happen around the estate. Objects moved on their own, cryptic messages appeared on frosted windows, and wildlife behaved oddly, all pointing to a resurgence of supernatural activity, as if the land itself was awakening. One night, under the light of a full moon, Emma performed the ritual at the newly uncovered altar, offering gifts of natural elements and reciting ancient incantations. The air around her shimmered, and the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds thinned. From the shadows of the forest, figures emerged, not menacing but solemn, their appearances shifting between human and more elemental forms. These were the guardians, the true protectors of the land, and they recognized Emma as the heir to the original covenant. They spoke in a language that was unfamiliar yet understandable, their voices a harmony of the natural world. They told her of the land's history, of the balance that had been maintained for millennia, and of the disruption caused by her ancestors' betrayal. The guardians, though wary, sensed Emma's sincerity and her desire to heal the wounds of the past. They offered her guidance, warning of the challenges ahead, as darker forces, disturbed by the breaking of the old pact and the cleansing of the grove, were now stirring. Emma listened, her resolve hardening. She knew that her journey was about more than restoring her family's honor or even repairing the legacy of the land. It was about confronting the broader imbalance in the world, a task that would require not just knowledge and courage but alliances with beings both earthly and ethereal. As the meeting concluded, the guardians faded back into the forest, their presence lingering like a protective embrace. Emma, left alone by the ancient altar, felt a profound connection to the land and a clearer purpose. She was not just the scion of a troubled lineage but a pivotal figure in a larger story of reconciliation and renewal. With the guardians' cryptic advice and warnings echoing in her mind, Emma prepared to expand her quest beyond the familiar boundaries of her estate, into a world where ancient magics and modern realities intertwined in complex and dangerous ways. Her path was set to explore the intricate dance of light and shadow, to seek allies in her fight against the encroaching darkness, and to unravel the deeper mysteries of the supernatural world that had entwined her fate with its own. Equipped with knowledge from the guardians and the hidden library, Emma embarked on a journey that took her far from the familiarity of her ancestral home. She traveled to ancient sites and modern metropolises, tracing the ley lines she had mapped, each destination revealing a piece of the vast, intricate puzzle of the supernatural world. In a remote village nestled in the mountains, she encountered a sect of monks who were custodians of an ancient relic, an artifact imbued with the power to open doorways between realms. The monks, aware of the shifting balance in the supernatural world, shared their lore with Emma, tales of dimensional rifts and the creatures that lurk in the spaces between. Her next lead took her to a bustling city where, hidden among the skyscrapers, lay an occult library, its collection a treasure trove of esoteric knowledge. There, Emma met other like-minded individuals, scholars of the arcane, who spoke of a rising tide of dark energy, manifesting in unexplained phenomena across the globe. These encounters broadened Emma's perspective, revealing the global scale of her fight. The breaking of her family's curse had set events in motion that resonated through the supernatural community, drawing attention to the fragile balance between worlds. As winter gave way to spring, Emma's quest led her to a forest in Eastern Europe, where the trees themselves were said to be alive, whispering secrets of the ancient magic that saturated the land. Within this living forest, she found a grove that mirrored the one on her estate, complete with its own altar and guardian spirits. Here, she participated in a ritual that connected her deeper with the earth's energies, her senses expanding, allowing her to communicate with the natural world on a level she had never experienced before. The forest's guardian, an entity as old as the land itself, revealed to Emma a vision of the world's ley lines converging, forming a nexus of power that would soon become the battleground for forces seeking control over the natural and supernatural worlds. Emma realized that her role was not merely to be a passive protector but an active participant in the unfolding events. The guardians, both of her land and the forest, hinted at her destiny to bridge the divide between humanity and the supernatural, to act as a mediator in the impending conflict. Returning to her estate, Emma felt a change in the air, a sense of impending confrontation. Her travels had not gone unnoticed, and she found signs that others were aware of her activities, some seemingly supportive, others clearly threatening. Her research became more focused, each clue an artifact pointing towards an upcoming convergence, an event predicted in various prophecies and ancient texts, where the barriers between worlds would thin, allowing not just spirits but more formidable entities to pass through. Emma fortified her home, setting wards and protections, not just against physical intruders but against ethereal forces. She gathered around her a group of allies, each bringing their own knowledge and skills, forming a network of defenders prepared to face the challenges ahead. The estate, with its ancient grove and newly awakened power, became a sanctuary and a meeting point for those involved in the supernatural realm, its library a center of study and planning. Emma, once isolated in her quest, now found herself at the heart of a community, a leader in the fight to maintain the balance between light and shadow. As the date of the convergence approached, strange phenomena increased. The veil between worlds grew thinner, shadows lengthened, and whispers filled the air, carrying messages from unseen entities. The natural world responded, with reports of unusual animal behavior and plants blooming out of season, as if nature itself was bracing for the coming change. Emma and her allies prepared for the unknown, understanding that the convergence would be a turning point, a moment of crisis that could lead to a new era of harmony or plunge the world into chaos. The legacy of her family, once a source of dread and darkness, had become a beacon of hope, the key to preventing a cataclysm that threatened to blur the lines between reality and nightmare, life and oblivion. As the eve of the convergence dawned, Emma stood in the grove, her senses attuned to the shifting energies of the land, the air crackling with anticipation. She was ready to face whatever came through the thinning veil, to protect her legacy and the balance of the world, standing on the threshold of a new chapter in the eternal dance of light and shadow, where her actions would determine the fate of both the natural and supernatural worlds. As the convergence approached, the world held its breath. Night fell, darker than any before, stars blotted out by a creeping malaise that spread across the sky. Emma, standing in the heart of the grove, felt the ancient energies surge, the earth trembling beneath her feet. Around her, the gathered allies, beings of flesh and spirit, prepared for the unknown, their faces set in grim determination. The air thrummed with power, the veil between worlds shimmering like a thin curtain in a breeze, ready to tear. Then, as the clock struck midnight, a profound silence enveloped the estate, a stillness that defied the storm of energies raging unseen. From the grove's center, a light began to emanate, soft at first, then growing in intensity, casting long, twisting shadows among the trees. The altar, silent for centuries, awakened, its ancient stones aglow with ethereal fire. Emma, connected to the land's heart, channeled the grove's power, her voice lifting in an ancient chant, guiding the energies, weaving a protective tapestry around the estate. The veil tore, a rip in the fabric of reality, and through it poured entities of nightmare and wonder, creatures of myth and legend, some benevolent, others malevolent, all drawn to the nexus of power. A battle ensued, not of swords and shields, but of wills and wits, as Emma and her allies sought to contain the influx, to mend the tear before the world was overwhelmed. Among the chaos, a figure emerged, its presence calming the tumult, a being of pure light and shadow, embodying the balance Emma sought to preserve. It was the spirit of the land, the true guardian, awakened by the convergence, its power magnifying Emma's efforts, lending strength to her allies. Together, they pushed back against the tide of encroaching darkness, sealing the rift, restoring the barrier between worlds. The entities that had crossed over were either banished or integrated into the fabric of the natural world, their presence a reminder of the thin line between order and chaos. As dawn broke, the light dispelling the last shadows of the night, a calm settled over the estate. The land was healed, stronger for the ordeal, its energies balanced and renewed. The grove, once a place of dark pacts and hidden power, was now a beacon of harmony, its guardian spirit watching over the land, a silent ally to Emma and her lineage. Emma, weary but uplifted, stood among her friends and allies, her journey from isolated guardian to leader of a renewed covenant complete. She had faced the darkness within and without, turning a legacy of fear and sorrow into one of hope and unity. The estate, no longer a haunted house on a cursed land, became a sanctuary where the supernatural and human worlds could coexist, learn from each other, and grow together. Emma's story, once a tale of horror and desperation, ended as a saga of redemption and collaboration, her life a testament to the enduring power of courage, understanding, and balance. In the aftermath, the world returned to a semblance of normalcy, but with a newfound respect for the mysteries that lay just beyond perception, guarded by those who walked the line between light and shadow. Emma, her legacy now one of enlightenment and guardianship, continued to explore the mysteries of the supernatural world, her home a steadfast beacon in the ever-shifting dance of the cosmos. The horrors of the past, transformed by the trials and triumphs of the present, became the foundations of a future where fear was replaced with fascination, and the darkness was forever held at bay by the light of knowledge and the strength of unity. On a stormy night, with the rain pelting down in relentless sheets, Alex found himself alone in his family's sprawling, century-old farmhouse. His parents were out of town, and what started as an evening of solitude and freedom quickly turned into a night of unnerving occurrences. The house, usually comforting, seemed to take on a life of its own, with each creak and moan of the wooden structure amplified by the silence and the storm outside. As the night deepened, Alex tried to distract himself with movies and snacks, but a persistent feeling of unease crept over him. It was then that the power flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness, save for the occasional flash of lightning that illuminated the rooms with a ghostly glow. Seeking solace in the familiarity of his surroundings, Alex lit a candle and ventured through the dark, echoing hallways to check the doors and windows, ensuring they were locked. The howling wind and the tapping of tree branches against the windows set his nerves on edge. Returning to the living room, he heard a soft thump upstairs, like something heavy being dropped. Rationalizing it as the house settling or the wind's work, he tried to ignore it, but the sound repeated, more deliberately this time, followed by a dragging noise that seemed to move across the upstairs hallway. Heart-pounding, Alex debated whether to investigate or stay put. Curiosity overcame fear, and he crept up the stairs, candle in hand, its flickering light casting long, dancing shadows that twisted and turned with his movements. Reaching the top, he paused, listening. The house was silent except for the storm's rage outside and his own labored breathing. He moved toward his bedroom, the source of the noises, the floorboards cold under his bare feet. Just as he reached the door, a lightning flash revealed a figure standing at the end of the hallway, its features obscured by darkness. Frozen in place, Alex watched as the figure moved towards him, its steps silent, its form becoming clearer with each flash of lightning. The power suddenly surged back to life, flooding the hallway with light, and the figure vanished, leaving Alex alone, heart racing, with too many questions and no answers. The storm outside seemed to mock his confusion, its thunderous laughter shaking the walls of the old farmhouse. Returning to his room, Alex found everything as he left it, but the window was open, rain splattering onto the sill, though he was certain he had closed it earlier. As he moved to shut it, a cold breeze brushed past him, carrying with it a whisper, a faint voice calling his name, not from outside, but from somewhere within the house. Alex's heart skipped as he spun around, scanning the room, but no one was there. The voice seemed to have been carried on the wind, yet it bore an unnerving clarity. He shut the window with trembling hands, the rain's patter now sounding like hurried whispers against the glass. The house felt different, as if the brief appearance of the figure and the disembodied whisper had imbued it with a new, sinister energy. Shadows seemed to cling tighter to the corners, and the normal groans and creaks of the old structure sounded more like hushed footsteps and muffled sighs. Trying to calm his racing mind, Alex reminded himself he was alone, that the isolation and storm were playing tricks on his perception. He decided to return downstairs, intending to lock himself in the living room and wait out the storm. However, as he turned to leave his room, he noticed his reflection in the mirror hanging on the door. For a moment, he saw a silhouette standing behind him in the reflection, a dark shape that seemed to loom closer than the room's dimensions should allow. Whirling around, he found nothing but empty space. The room was still, too still, as if holding its breath. Shaken, Alex left his room, closing the door firmly behind him, the sound echoing too loudly in the silent house. As he descended the stairs, the temperature dropped, a chill in the air that hadn't been there before. The living room felt sanctuary-like, with its familiar furniture and the remnants of his earlier attempt at a comfortable night in. He locked the door leading to the hallway, a futile gesture that nonetheless provided a slight sense of security. Settling on the couch, Alex wrapped himself in a blanket, the candle now replaced by the harsher, steadier light of a flashlight. He tried to distract himself with his phone, but the signal was erratic, the storm interfering with the reception. Then, downstairs, in the very house he thought secured, the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open shattered the illusion of safety. Footsteps, soft and slow, began to ascend the staircase, each step deliberate, echoing in the hollow space of the hallway. Alex's mind raced with panic. The logical part of him wanted to dismiss it as the house settling or maybe even an intruder, which, while terrifying, was at least a tangible threat he could confront. But the primal fear that had been building since the first odd occurrences whispered of something more sinister, something not bound by the physical laws of intruders or natural explanations. The footsteps halted, and a heavy silence filled the house, as if whatever was causing them was now listening, waiting. The power flickered again, shadows dancing wildly in the transient light, creating a disorienting ballet of light and dark. Then, a soft, melodic hum filled the air, a lullaby that seemed both beautiful and menacing. It was a tune Alex recognized from his childhood, one his mother used to sing to him, but now it sounded warped, as if coming through water, its notes distorted and chilling. As the humming grew louder, a sense of dread overwhelmed Alex. The familiarity of the melody, twisted into something grotesque, suggested a knowledge of him, a personal connection that was impossible for a mere trespasser to possess. The air grew colder still, and Alex's breath formed visible puffs in the beam of his flashlight. Frozen by fear and curiosity, Alex waited, the humming a sinister soundtrack to the mounting terror. The storm outside raged on, oblivious to the unfolding nightmare within, as the boundaries between the known and the unknown, the safe and the haunted, blurred into a terrifying night of revelation. Their haunting melody permeated the house, weaving through the rooms like a serpent, slithering into Alex's very soul. He realized with horror that the sound was drawing closer, emanating from the darkness of the unlit hallway just beyond the living room door. The familiar lullaby, now a sinister chant, seemed to be calling him, beckoning him to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. Gripped by a fear that was both irrational and consuming, Alex knew he couldn't remain passive. With each note of the twisted melody, the line between reality and nightmare frayed further. Steeling himself, he stood, flashlight in hand, its beam a feeble shield against the encroaching darkness. As he approached the door, the temperature plummeted, the cold biting into his flesh like unseen teeth. Their humming stopped abruptly, replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to press against his eardrums. Alex hesitated, his hand on the doorknob, the metal icy beneath his fingers. Mustering his courage, he flung the door open, shining the flashlight into the hallway. It was empty, the light cutting through the darkness to reveal only the familiar walls and closed doors of his home. But the relief was short-lived. As he stepped out, the door slammed shut behind him with a force that sent a shiver down his spine. The house seemed to breathe around him, the walls pulsating slightly as if alive. The silence was oppressive, filled with the weight of unspoken threats. Alex moved slowly, the flashlight's beam trembling along with his hands, as he made his way towards the staircase, compelled by an inexplicable urge to ascend. Reaching the foot of the stairs, he glanced upwards, the beam of light stretching out like a tentative finger probing the gloom. Upstairs, the shadows seemed to gather and thicken, forming shapes that defied logic, swirling and coalescing into forms that suggested human figures, only to disperse before his disbelieving eyes. The air was charged with a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Then, breaking the eerie calm, a child's giggle echoed down the staircase, a sound so out of place and time that it rooted Alex to the spot. It was playful yet mocking, innocent yet filled with an ancient knowledge. Driven by a mixture of dread and determination, Alex began to climb the stairs, each step creaking under his weight, announcing his approach to the unseen presence. The giggle sounded again, closer now, a spectral taunt that pulled him forward. Reaching the top, he found the hallway bathed in an ethereal glow, the source unclear. The doors along the corridor were ajar, swaying gently as if caught in a non-existent breeze. The child's laughter came again, this time from behind one of the doors, inviting yet forbidding. As Alex approached, the temperature dropped further, his breath visible in the air, forming clouds that seemed to whisper secrets in a language he felt he once knew. The door before him stood slightly open, the room beyond shrouded in darkness that seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. With a deep breath, Alex pushed the door, the hinges whining softly. The room revealed itself slowly, the flashlight slicing through the darkness to reveal a scene of surreal normalcy, a child's bedroom, toys scattered on the floor, walls adorned with cheerful, faded wallpaper. But the air was thick with an unspoken history, a palpable residue of past emotions and events. In the corner of the room stood a rocking chair, moving gently back and forth, though no breeze stirred in the sealed space. And on the floor next to it, a small doll, its porcelain face cracked with age, its glass eyes reflecting the flashlight's beam in a mimicry of life. As Alex stepped into the room, the rocking chair stilled abruptly, and the house seemed to exhale, a sound like a sigh or a moan filtering through the walls. The atmosphere tensed, charged with expectation, waiting for a climax that hovered just out of reach, as the boundary between the past and present, the living and the dead, thinned to a razor's edge. Alex's heart hammered in his chest as he stood in the threshold of the room, the stopped rocking chair and the silent doll creating a tableau that whispered of long-forgotten tragedies. The air felt heavy with the remnants of laughter and crying, blending into a silent symphony of joy and sorrow, life and loss. Compelled by an unseen force, he stepped closer to the rocking chair, his flashlight beam revealing the fine details of the doll's face, each crack a testament to its age and the secrets it held. The room felt suspended in time, a pocket of the past that had bled into the present, defying the laws of nature and man. As he reached down to pick up the doll, the temperature in the room plummeted, and a palpable sense of dread washed over him. The moment his fingers touched the porcelain, a flood of images and emotions crashed into his mind, visions of a child who once played in this room, her laughter and tears imbuing the walls with her essence. The visions intensified, becoming more vivid, the child, sick in bed, her family's desperate prayers, and a shadowy figure looming over her, its intentions murky but malevolently palpable. The house, once filled with happiness, had witnessed unspeakable sadness, the residue of which lingered like a stain on the fabric of reality. Reeling from the onslaught of memories, Alex staggered back, dropping the doll. It hit the floor with a soft thud, its impact seeming to break the spell, allowing him to gasp for breath, his mind reeling from the intimate connection to the house's tragic past. The room darkened as if clouds had covered the moon outside, and the temperature continued to drop, frost forming on the windows, creeping across the walls. The child's laughter echoed once more, now tinged with an eerie sorrow, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Shadows in the corners of the room began to coalesce, forming the outline of the shadowy figure from his vision. It was tall and thin, its form blurry and shifting, as if struggling to manifest fully in the physical world. Alex felt an overwhelming sense of malice emanating from the figure, a hatred that transcended time, targeting him as the intruder, the one who dared to uncover the hidden torments of the house. Frozen in place, Alex watched as the figure slowly approached, its movements erratic, like a flickering film reel. The air around it shimmered with a dark aura, the room's temperature dropping further in its wake, each step it took leaving behind a trail of ice on the wooden floor. The child's voice, now clearly a girl's, whispered through the room, her words indistinct yet laden with sadness and fear. The figure stopped at the foot of the bed, turning its head slowly towards Alex, its face obscured by darkness. The house groaned under the weight of its history, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within. Lightning flashed, illuminating the room for a split second, revealing the figure's face, not human, but a twisted, sorrowful mask, its eyes pits of despair and anger. Alex, his fear mingling with a growing sense of protectiveness, understood that the figure was not just a harbinger of death, but a manifestation of the house's tragic past, bound to the place of its greatest loss and sorrow. The figure seemed to be searching for something, or someone, the child, perhaps, whose presence permeated the room, her essence intertwined with the very wood and stone of the house. The standoff between Alex and the figure stretched on, time seeming to dilate, the storm's fury outside a distant echo to the silent battle of wills occurring within the room. The house's secrets were slowly unraveling, revealing a tapestry of love, loss, and longing, with Alex and the spectral figure at its heart, each playing a role in the unfolding drama of redemption and release. The spectral figure, with its hollow eyes, seemed to peer into Alex's soul, searching, probing for a connection or acknowledgement. The air thrummed with unspoken words, the tension palpable, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for a resolution to the centuries-old drama playing out within its confines. Alex, despite his fear, felt a surge of empathy for the apparition. He realized that it was not just a remnant of the house's dark past, but a guardian of sorts, tethered to the tragedy that had unfolded in this very room. The child's laughter, now a sad echo, resonated with the figure, their stories interwoven in the tapestry of the house's history. Mustering his courage, Alex spoke, his voice steady but gentle. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure paused, its form flickering, and then, in a voice that was a mere whisper, yet clear in the silent room, it spoke, "My child. My sorrow." The words hung in the air, heavy with grief and longing. The room seemed to contract, the walls inching closer, as if to listen, to bear witness to the confession of the sorrowful spirit. The temperature in the room began to normalize, the frost receding, as if the figure's acknowledgement of its pain had broken a spell. Alex, understanding dawning on him, slowly approached the figure. "Your child? Is she the girl who lived here?" he asked, his voice soft, almost a whisper, not wanting to break the fragile connection. The figure nodded, its form becoming slightly clearer, less menacing and more human. The room filled with a soft light, emanating from nowhere, casting a gentle glow that softened the sharp edges of shadows. The figure gestured towards the bed, where the imprint of a small body could still be seen on the faded quilt, a silent testament to the child who once slept there. The story unfolded, not in words, but in a flood of images and emotions, shared directly from the figure to Alex. He saw the girl, lively and laughing, playing in the sunshine that streamed through the windows. Then, the illness that took hold, her light dimming, and the father's, the figure's, desperation as he sought to save her, delving into forbidden knowledge, making pacts with shadowy entities, all for naught. The girl's death marked the beginning of the figure's torment, trapped between worlds, his guilt and sorrow binding him to the house, an eternal sentinel watching over the shadow of his past happiness. The revelation hit Alex with the force of a physical blow, his heart aching for the figure and the girl, their pain magnified by the years of solitude and misunderstanding. He looked at the figure, no longer just a menacing presence, but a father lost in his grief. The storm outside abated, the tumultuous winds and driving rain giving way to a peaceful silence. Inside, the room, once a place of death and mourning, now felt like a sanctuary, a bridge between the past and present where healing could begin. Alex and the figure, a connection formed through shared understanding and compassion, stood together, the barriers of time and existence blurred. The spirit of the girl, her laughter now a soft, joyful sound, filled the space, her presence a balm to the wounds of the living and the dead. The house, sensing the shift, seemed to sigh in relief, its structure settling, the whispers of the past fading into a tranquil quiet. Alex, the figure, and the spirit of the girl, each played a role in this moment of reconciliation, a confluence of paths that had led to a poignant juncture of sorrow, forgiveness, and peace. The night waned, the first light of dawn peeking through the curtains, touching the edges of the room with a warm glow. The figure, looking towards the light, appeared to age, its form dissolving, edges blurring, as if the coming day was erasing the boundaries that held it in this world. As the room brightened, the figure gave Alex a final, grateful look, a silent farewell, before turning to the bed, where the ghostly impression of the girl lay. Reaching out, the figure's hand touched the quilt, and with a gentle sigh, both the figure and the impression faded, leaving behind an empty room, filled with the light of a new day and the echoes of a long-forgotten lullaby. The house, forever changed by the night's revelations, now stood as a monument not to fear and sorrow, but to the enduring power of love and redemption. Alex, a witness and participant to the story's resolution, felt a deep, unspoken bond with the place, his role in the night's events weaving him into the fabric of its history, a guardian of its secrets and its legacy. As the first rays of dawn bathed the room in a soft, forgiving light, Alex stood alone, the ghosts of the past finally laid to rest. The room, once a nexus of sorrow and lost time, now felt peaceful, its air clear of the heavy sadness that had once pervaded it. Despite the resolution of the night's haunting events, a lingering curiosity tugged at Alex's mind. The house had revealed one of its deep, dark secrets, but the intensity of the night's experiences hinted at more layers of history and mystery enshrouded within its walls. Driven by a newfound sense of responsibility and an insatiable desire to understand the full extent of the house's legacy, Alex began to explore the other rooms, each one telling a piece of the larger story. In the attic, amidst dust-covered furniture and forgotten heirlooms, he found a trunk filled with old letters and diaries, the handwriting varying from the elegant script of bygone days to the hurried scrawl of troubled minds. These documents chronicled the lives of the house's inhabitants, tales of joy and despair, birth and death, love and betrayal, each entry a thread in the fabric of the home's history. Among the papers, a series of letters caught Alex's attention, written during a time of war and loss, speaking of a hidden room in the house, a sanctuary for forbidden love and secret pacts. Intrigued and compelled by the notion of a hidden room, Alex's search took on a new fervor. His investigation led him to the library, a room he had thought familiar and fully known. However, his perception changed when he noticed a discrepancy in the wall's bookshelves, a subtle misalignment that hinted at a concealed entrance. After hours of meticulous searching and prodding, Alex discovered a mechanism disguised as a bookend that, when activated, revealed a hidden door, creaking open to reveal a small, dust-choked room. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and forgotten memories. The walls were lined with shelves, each filled with books of esoteric lore and arcane knowledge, their pages yellowed with age. In the center of the room stood a desk, covered in papers and an inkwell that, despite the room's long abandonment, was not dry, as if waiting for its owner to resume their work. On the desk lay a journal, its cover worn, the name on it barely legible, but clearly belonging to a past owner of the house, someone who had delved deep into the supernatural and the occult. As Alex leafed through the journal, the entry spoke of rituals and experiments, attempts to contact otherworldly entities and harness powers beyond human understanding. The writer spoke of a grand design, a quest to transcend the mortal coil and achieve a form of immortality, a quest that seemed to have consumed them entirely. The further Alex read, the more he realized that the story of the house was far from over. The peaceful resolution of the previous night's haunting was but a chapter in a much larger, ongoing saga. The hidden room and its secrets suggested that the house was not just a container for individual tales of woe and wonder, but a nexus of supernatural forces, a focal point for energies that transcended time and space. Outside, the day had fully dawned, but inside the hidden room, time seemed irrelevant, the dim light from the single window casting long shadows that played across the walls, as if hinting at the depth and complexity of the mysteries yet to be unraveled. Alex, now the custodian of the house's secrets and its legacy, felt a weight of responsibility but also a thrill of anticipation. The path before him was fraught with unknowns, but the house, with its myriad stories and hidden depths, was his to explore and understand. The journey ahead promised to delve deeper into the shadows of history and the uncharted territories of the supernatural. The house, once a mere family residence, had become a character in its own right, with Alex as its companion and chronicler, ready to uncover the truths buried in its heart, where the past mingled with the present and the boundaries between worlds were thin and porous, waiting for the curious and the brave to explore. With the hidden room revealed and its secrets laid bare before him, Alex's understanding of the house and its history deepened. The journal's entries, cryptic and foreboding, hinted at a legacy of occult practices and otherworldly contacts that had shaped the destiny of the house and its inhabitants. The writer's obsession with the supernatural had left a palpable mark on the very essence of the home, imbuing it with a power that resonated through the walls and floors, an energy that seemed to beckon to Alex, drawing him deeper into its mysteries. Determined to unravel the full extent of the house's past and its connection to the supernatural, Alex spent days poring over the documents in the hidden room, each page turning back the veil on the shadowed history of his lineage. The narrative spoke of alliances with shadow entities, secret societies, and forbidden rituals performed under the cloak of night, all in pursuit of knowledge and power beyond mortal limits. The house, he realized, was more than a mere dwelling. It was a crucible of arcane energies, a focal point where the veil between the mortal realm and the beyond was perennially thin. His earlier encounters with the spectral figure and the child's spirit were but echoes of the house's true potential, glimpses of the raw power that lay dormant within its foundation. Compelled by a mix of fear and fascination, Alex decided to explore the house further, guided by the journal's clues. His exploration led him to discover secret compartments, hidden passages, and forgotten chambers, each unveiling more pieces of the puzzle. One passage, concealed behind a wall in the cellar, opened into an underground chamber that contained relics and artifacts, their origins spanning across continents and centuries, collected by the house's previous occupants for their mystical properties. Among these artifacts, a sealed box caught Alex's attention. Made of an unknown dark wood and bound with iron bands, it pulsed with a cold energy, as if containing something alive. The journal referred to it obliquely, warning of its dangerous potential and the price paid for its acquisition. The house, with its layers of secrets, seemed to watch Alex, its silent halls and shadowed rooms witnesses to his search for truth. The air thrummed with whispered voices and half-seen figures that vanished when looked upon directly, the past and present blurring together in the corners of his vision. Night after night, Alex was drawn back to the hidden room, the journal his guide through the labyrinth of his family's dark legacy. The entries became increasingly erratic, the writer's obsession with immortality leading to rituals that blurred the line between science and sorcery, their consequences hinted at but never fully revealed. As the days passed, the house seemed to awaken, its dormant energies stirred by Alex's investigations. Strange phenomena occurred with increasing frequency, objects moving of their own accord, shadowy figures glimpsed in mirrors, and the persistent sound of footsteps following him through the empty halls. One evening, as a thunderstorm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil within, Alex uncovered a final entry in the journal, a frantic scroll speaking of a ritual to be performed at the convergence of cosmic events, a ritual that would unlock the ultimate secrets of life and death. The entry ended abruptly, the final words smudged, as if the writer had been interrupted or had rushed to commence the ritual. Alex, his curiosity piqued and his fear tempered by a growing sense of his role in the ongoing saga of the house, felt that the answers he sought were close at hand. The storm outside intensified, lightning illuminating the hidden room in stark flashes, casting deep shadows that seemed to writhe and twist with a life of their own. The air in the room grew heavy, the edges of reality fraying as the boundary between worlds thinned, the house responding to the legacy of its past and the presence of its current inhabitant. Alex, standing at the precipice of understanding, prepared to delve into the final secrets of the house, to confront the culmination of centuries of forbidden knowledge and dark pacts, unknowingly following in the footsteps of those who had walked the halls before him, each step taking him closer to the heart of the darkness that lay at the core of the home's history. As the storm outside raged with increasing ferocity, Alex felt a synchronous energy building within the house. The relics in the underground chamber vibrated with a resonance that seemed to beckon him, urging him towards a destiny foretold in the frenzied scribbles of the journal. The impending ritual, hinted at in the final pages, felt like both a warning and an invitation, a path to knowledge that was as perilous as it was enticing. Determined to uncover the truth, Alex gathered the necessary artifacts from the chamber, each one a piece of the puzzle locked within the house's storied past. The sealed box, pulsating with a dark energy, seemed to be the centerpiece, its secret central to the ritual's success. The house groaned under the weight of the brewing storm, its timbers creaking in protest, as if aware of the impending breach into the unknown. Guided by the journal, Alex set up in the main hall, the heart of the house, where the energies converged in a palpable nexus. The walls themselves appeared to pulsate with a rhythm that matched the thunder outside, their ancient stones resonating with the power accumulated over centuries of rituals and secrets. As he arranged the artifacts in a precise formation detailed in the journal, the air around him thickened, charged with anticipation. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and weave, creating a tapestry of light and shadow that danced across the hall. Alex, standing in the center of the formation, felt a connection to the house that transcended time, as if he were becoming a part of its history, another echo in its vast, dark corridors. With the storm at its zenith, Alex began the ritual, reciting incantations that felt strangely familiar, as though they were etched into his very soul. The artifacts glowed with an otherworldly light, their energies intertwining and spiraling upwards, creating a vortex of power that threatened to consume the room. The sealed box began to shake violently, its lid rattling against the clasps that bound it. Alex, his voice steady over the growing tumult, continued the incantation, his focus absolute, drawn into the eye of the storm that swirled around him. The house responded to his commands, the ancient stones of the hall glowing with runes that appeared and vanished in the blink of an eye, their meanings lost to time but their intent clear in the context of the ritual. Suddenly, with a crack like thunder, the box burst open, releasing a surge of dark energy that screamed through the hall, a tangible wave of despair and anger. From the vortex above, a figure began to materialize, its form nebulous and shifting, a manifestation of the house's collected memories and the energies unleashed by the ritual. Alex, rooted to the spot by forces beyond his control, watched as the figure gained clarity, its features a mimic of all those who had inhabited the house, their joys and sorrows, triumphs and defeats etched into its visage. The figure spoke in a chorus of voices, each word resonating with the weight of the ages, asking Alex if he was prepared to accept the knowledge and the burden that came with it. The storm outside crescendoed, lightning striking the house in rhythmic fury, each bolt a heartbeat fueling the ritual's climax. The house itself seemed to be alive, breathing in sync with the storm, its windows and doors opening and closing in a mad dance, as if it were trying to speak, to warn or to welcome. Alex, his mind expanded by the ritual and the house's embrace, stood at the threshold of understanding, poised between the known and the unknown, the past and the future, ready to step into the legacy that awaited him, to learn the secrets of the house and his place within its timeless narrative. The figure, now fully formed and imposing, waited for his answer, a sentinel of the threshold between worlds, the keeper of the knowledge that Alex sought, the final guardian of the house's true heart and history. In the charged atmosphere of the ritual, with the storm unleashing its full fury upon the house, Alex faced the figure that embodied the essence of the place and its history. The entity, a mosaic of every soul that had passed through the house, held in its gaze the promise of secrets untold and truths unspoken. Alex, feeling both dwarfed and empowered by the enormity of the moment, met the entity's gaze, his voice resonant and clear, "I am ready." The entity, its form now steady and defined, nodded, its face a kaleidoscope of emotions. It reached out, its hand parsing through the swirling energies, touching Alex's forehead. At that contact, a flood of visions and sensations overwhelmed him, the history of the house, not as a sequence of events, but as a living, breathing entity, its joys, sorrows, triumphs, and tragedies. He saw the house's construction, the laying of its foundations, each stone imbued with purpose and hope. He witnessed generations of inhabitants, each adding to the tapestry of its essence, their lives interwoven with the very fabric of the building. He felt the echoes of their emotions, the residue of their existence permeating the walls, the floors, the very air of the house. Among these myriad lives, Alex saw the darker threads, the rituals and pacts made in the pursuit of knowledge and power, the birth of the curse that had shadowed his family, and the sacrifices made to contain the forces unleashed by ambition and despair. He understood now that the house was not just a passive witness to these events but an active participant, its energies shaped and reshaped by the deeds and desires of its occupants. The storm outside reached its climax, thunder and lightning in perfect sync with the revelations unfolding within. The entity, its eyes a whirlpool of light and darkness, spoke again, its voice echoing in the depths of Alex's soul. The house is the keeper of the threshold, the guardian of the gate. Your legacy, your blood, is the key to its power and its burden. As the words sank in, the house trembled, the energies of the ritual peaking, creating a resonance that threatened to tear the veil between worlds asunder. Alex felt the power coursing through him, a conduit between the entity, the house, and the storm, his very being the linchpin in the delicate balance of forces at play. The entity began to fade, its form dissolving into the energies that swirled around the room, its final message a silent impartation of knowledge, a transfer of guardianship. As it vanished, the storm abated, the tumultuous winds and torrential rain giving way to an eerie calm, both inside and outside the house. Alex, now alone in the main hall, felt an indescribable connection to the house, an understanding that transcended words. He knew that the night's events were but the beginning of a deeper journey into the mysteries of the house and his own lineage. The house, forever altered by the ritual, stood silent, its secrets and stories entrusted to Alex. The legacy of the past, with its light and shadow, its love and sorrow, now lay open before him, a path leading into the depths of history and the unexplored realms of the supernatural. The dawn, breaking on the horizon, cast the first light through the windows, touching the walls and floors of the house, illuminating the dust motes in the air, each one a tiny spectre of the past, a silent witness to the night's revelations. Alex, standing amidst the legacy of centuries, felt a profound sense of purpose and destiny, ready to explore the hidden corners of the house, to delve into the mysteries of his ancestors, and to confront whatever future the house and its spirits would unveil. In the aftermath of the ritual and the storm, the house was transformed. The air felt charged with a new energy, a palpable sense of history and mystery waiting to be unraveled. Alex, now deeply connected to the house and its lineage, felt an urgent need to delve deeper into the secrets it held. As daylight fully reclaimed the sky, casting away the last shadows of the night, Alex began to explore the house anew. With the knowledge imparted by the entity, he saw everything with fresh eyes. Rooms and hallways, once familiar, now whispered secrets and hinted at hidden depths. In the library, where generations had studied and schemed, Alex discovered a false bookshelf that concealed a cache of ancient manuscripts and arcane objects, each potentially a key to understanding the rituals and powers that had shaped the house's destiny. Among these discoveries was a map of the estate, not just the house but the surrounding lands, marked with symbols and ley lines that suggested a vast, intricate network of energy, converging at specific points on the property. Intrigued, Alex realized that the house was not just a singular nexus of supernatural activity but part of a larger, more complex grid of power that extended beyond its walls. The day passed in a blur of exploration and discovery, with each room and corridor revealing more of the house's layered past. In the basement, behind a wall of aged stone, Alex found a sealed chamber, its existence unknown to even the most detailed family records. Inside, statues and artifacts hinted at a time when the house was part of a larger cultic tradition, its occupants serving roles in ceremonies that sought to bridge the mortal realm with the otherworldly. As the sun set, casting the house into silhouette against the twilight sky, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of being part of something greater than himself, a player in a story that spanned centuries and realms. The house, with its newly revealed secrets and the legacy of its past occupants, seemed to be guiding him, leading him towards a destiny that was intertwined with its own. That night, as darkness reclaimed the house, Alex felt a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle change that suggested the barriers between worlds were thinner, more permeable. The moon, full and bright, cast a silvery light through the windows, illuminating the main hall where the ritual had taken place. Drawn to the spot, Alex found the energy of the house converging there, the floorboards and walls pulsating with a rhythm that matched the beating of his heart. He realized that the ritual had not just been a moment of contact and revelation, but the beginning of an ongoing process, a transformation of both the house and himself. As the clock struck midnight, the air in the hall shimmered, a portal of sorts forming, a window into other times and places. Alex, understanding that this was the next step in his journey, approached the portal, the knowledge and power of the house flowing through him, a guide and guardian as he prepared to step through the threshold. The house, now fully awake and active, seemed to approve, its energies supportive of his quest to understand and protect the legacy he had inherited. Alex stood before the portal, the history of the house behind him, and an unknown future ahead, ready to explore the mysteries of the past and the potential of the future, the house and its guardian moving together into the unfolding saga of their intertwined destinies. As Alex stepped closer to the shimmering portal, the air tingled with electricity, the boundary between the known and the unknown stretched thin. He reached out, his hand hovering before the ethereal veil, the histories and secrets of the house pulsating behind him, urging him forward. With a deep breath, he stepped through, crossing into a realm that defied time and space. The world on the other side was both alien and familiar, a landscape that mirrored the estate but was suffused with an otherworldly glow. The house, visible in the distance, towered over the land, its architecture grander, more imposing, as if reflecting its true significance in the tapestry of realms. The ground beneath his feet was covered in a mist that swirled and shifted with his movements, each step revealing glimpses of other times, shadows of events that had transpired in the realm's history. Whispering winds carried voices, fragments of conversations and echoes of laughter and screams, the residue of lives once lived in this place between worlds. As Alex ventured deeper into the landscape, the scenery shifted, revealing groves that glowed with an ethereal light, streams that flowed not with water but with liquid light, and fields where the grass shimmered with a radiance that seemed to pulse with life. The air was alive with energy, vibrating with the power of the ley lines that converged at this nexus of realities. In the distance, a tower loomed, its structure spiraling towards the sky, twisting with motifs that told the history of the house and its inhabitants. Drawn to the tower, Alex felt an inexorable pull, a connection that suggested the answers he sought lay within its walls. Approaching the tower's massive doors, they opened silently before him, as if welcoming a long-expected guest. Inside, the tower was vast, larger than it appeared from outside, its interior a labyrinth of corridors and rooms that defied the logic of architecture. Each room Alex entered was a different moment in the house's history, alive and preserved in time. He witnessed celebrations and funerals, moments of joy and despair, each room a chapter in the house's story, and now his own. Artifacts and relics from the house were here too, imbued with greater power and significance, their purposes fully realized in this otherworldly domain. In the heart of the tower, a grand library unfolded, its shelves stretching into infinity, filled with books and scrolls that contained the accumulated knowledge of generations. Here, the true extent of the house's legacy was recorded, a chronicle of its journey through time and its impact on the fabric of reality. The tower's highest room, at the very top of the spiral, was a sanctum that pulsed with the core energy of the house. Here, Alex found a mirror, not of glass but of shimmering energy, reflecting not his physical form, but his essence, and through it, the myriad parts of his potential futures. Gazing into the mirror, Alex saw the myriad possibilities unfold before him, each path a different outcome of his choices, each decision a branch in the ever-growing tree of destiny. The house, and now the tower, were not just buildings but entities in their own right, alive with the energies of those who had lived and died within their walls, and they had chosen Alex as their custodian, their champion. Outside the tower, the realm shifted, reflecting the changes within. The landscape was no longer a mere mirror of the estate, but a confluence of all possible versions of the house and its lands, each influenced by the different realities they represented. Alex, standing at the center of this confluence, realized his journey was far from over. The house, the tower, and this realm between worlds were his to explore, to understand, and to protect. Armed with the knowledge and power of his lineage, he was ready to face the challenges and mysteries that lay ahead, the guardian of a legacy that bridged worlds and times, standing watch over the threshold of realities, where the past and the future converged in the eternal present of the house's heart. As Alex stood in the sanctum of the tower, the essence of his being reflected in the mirror of energy, he understood the enormity of his role and the legacy he carried. The tower, the house, and the realm between worlds were not just places of power but entities that had chosen him to be their guardian, their voice. With this revelation, Alex felt a deep sense of purpose solidify within him. He was no longer just an inhabitant of the house or a victim of its haunted past, he was its protector, chosen to maintain the balance between the natural and supernatural, the mortal and the ethereal. Turning away from the mirror, Alex descended the tower, each step imbued with a newfound resolve. As he walked, the tower's corridors and rooms shifted around him, scenes from the house's history playing out like echoes of time, acknowledging his acceptance of the guardianship. Exiting the tower, Alex found the realm transformed once again, now a perfect blend of all the possibilities he had witnessed in the mirror. This realm, existing between worlds and times, was the heart of the house's power, and he was now its steward, responsible for nurturing and protecting it. Back in the physical world, the house awaited his return, silent and expectant. As he stepped through the portal, leaving the ethereal realm behind, the sun was rising, casting the first light of dawn across the land. The house, bathed in the gentle morning light, seemed at peace, its dark past and turbulent energies calmed by the night's events. Alex walked through the house, each room whispering acknowledgements of his journey and acceptance of his role. The artifacts, the hidden passages, the secret rooms, all were part of the legacy he now fully embraced, each element a piece of the puzzle that was his destiny to solve and safeguard. In the main hall, where the portal had opened, Alex felt the last remnants of the night storm dissipate, the house settling into a serene quiet, its energies balanced and harmonized. He knew that challenges lay ahead, that the balance between worlds would need constant vigilance, but he was ready. The legacy of the house, with its centuries of history, its moments of joy and terror, its encounters with the supernatural, was now his to protect and enhance. Alex, standing in the hall of his ancestors, felt a profound connection to the house, not as a place of fear, but as a home, a nexus of power and knowledge, a sentinel between the worlds. As the new day dawned, Alex looked to the future, ready to explore the mysteries of the house and beyond, to protect the balance of energies, and to guide the house's legacy into a new era. The house, in turn, stood silent and watchful, its new guardian in place, a beacon of light in the shadowy world of the supernatural. The story of the house and Alex, intertwined and evolving, was not ending but beginning anew, a saga of discovery, protection, and the eternal dance between light and shadow, ready to unfold in the chapters yet to come.